Have you ever wondered why the pain you prayed to escape is still here? Why did the relationship end after you asked God to save it? Why did the opportunity disappear when you believed it was finally your time? Why did the answer never come? Why did the door remain closed? Why does the life you carefully imagined seem to be dissolving before your eyes? You may have tried to remain hopeful. You may have told yourself to be strong, to be grateful, and to trust the process. You may have smiled for other people while carrying a heaviness that no one could see. You may have continued showing up, working, caring, and pretending that you were all right because you did not want anyone to know how tired your soul had become. Yet beneath all that effort, one question may continue to rise. Is God listening to me at all? There are moments when pain feels like proof that something has gone terribly wrong. The mind begins searching for an explanation. It returns to old conversations, old decisions, and old regrets. It imagines what you should have said, what you should have noticed, and how everything might have turned out differently if you had made another choice. The mind wants to find the exact moment when life went off course because it believes that understanding the past will give it control over the future. But not everything painful is evidence that your life has gone off course. Sometimes pain appears when a life built around fear, attachment, approval, and control can no longer continue. Sometimes what feels like the destruction of your world is the beginning of your return to something more honest. This does not mean God created the betrayal, the cruelty, the abandonment, or the loss. It does not mean every wound was deliberately sent to teach you a lesson. Human beings make choices. People act from fear, unconsciousness, selfishness, and unresolved pain. Life contains uncertainty, change, and events that the human mind cannot always explain. But nothing you have lived through is beyond the transforming presence of love. What wounded you does not have to define you. What ended does not have to become the end of your inner life. What another person failed to give you does not have to determine what you are capable of giving yourself now. God may not have authored the pain, but the presence of God can meet you inside it. Love can enter the place where you thought only emptiness remained. Awareness can grow where confusion once ruled. A deeper life can emerge from what you believed had destroyed you. Your pain is not proof that God has left you. It may be the place where you finally stop leaving yourself. Much of what hurts us is not only the loss itself, it is the identity we constructed around what was lost. You may have believed you could not be whole without a certain person. You may have attached your worth to someone's approval, your safety to a particular outcome, or your peace to the belief that life had to unfold according to your plans. You may have quietly said, when this person chooses me, I will know that I am worthy. When this opportunity arrives, I will finally believe that my life matters. When I understand why this happened, I will allow myself to be at peace. The ego continually places peace somewhere outside the present moment. It tells you that peace is waiting in another person's decision, in a future achievement, in an apology, in an explanation, or in a life that has not yet arrived. It says, not yet, you cannot rest yet. Something outside you must change first. Then the relationship ends, the plan collapses, or the answer does not come, and it feels as though you have collapsed with it. But notice something important. The part of you that is aware of this pain has not collapsed. There is something within you that can notice the sadness without becoming the sadness. There is a presence that hears the anxious thoughts, feels the ache in your heart, and observes the memories moving through your mind. That presence is not wounded in the same way the ego is wounded. It does not need to prove its worth. It does not compare its path with another person's path. It does not demand complete control over tomorrow. It remains quietly present beneath the noise, like the vast sky behind a passing storm. The storm may be real, the clouds may be dark, the rain may continue longer than you expected, but the sky has not disappeared. Your true nature is like that sky. Thoughts, emotions, losses, and painful seasons move through you, but they are not the whole of you. The ego says, this pain is who I am. Awareness says, this pain is something I am experiencing. That distinction may appear small, but it changes the direction of your entire inner life. When you call yourself broken, every experience becomes evidence of your brokenness. When you call yourself abandoned, every silence becomes proof that you are alone. When you call yourself a failure, every closed door becomes confirmation that you will never move forward. But when you recognize that pain is an experience rather than an identity, space begins to appear around it. There is breath around it. There is compassion around it. There is the possibility of another interpretation. You are not your rejection. You are not your mistake. You are not the relationship that ended. You are not the prayer that appears unanswered. You are the awareness in which all these experiences have appeared. You are the life beneath the story. You are the presence that existed before the wound and that will remain after the wound has been transformed. This is the beginning of returning home. Home is not always a place you travel toward. Sometimes home is the presence you return to when everything outside you becomes uncertain. It is the moment you stop abandoning yourself in order to be accepted. It is the moment you no longer chase someone who has chosen to leave. It is the moment you stop explaining your value to a person who is committed to misunderstanding you. It is the moment you recognize that fear may be speaking loudly, but it is not speaking the deepest truth about who you are. Pain has a way of removing the distractions that once kept you from hearing that truth. When life is comfortable, it is easy to believe that peace comes from circumstances. You may think you are peaceful because the relationship is stable, the future looks predictable, and the people around you approve of your choices. But when those conditions change and your peace disappears with them, you discover that what you called peace was still dependent on the outside world. This discovery hurts, but it is also sacred. It reveals where you have placed your power. It shows you where you have asked another person to carry the responsibility for your worth. It shows you where you have asked the future to provide the safety that can only be discovered in the present. It reveals where you have confused attachment with love, control with trust, and approval with belonging. These realizations are not meant to blame you. They are meant to free you. There is a profound difference between saying, "This happened because I am unworthy," and asking, "What is this experience helping me remember?" The first statement keeps you imprisoned in shame. The second opens a doorway into awareness. Consider the person who sits alone in a parked car late at night, holding a phone in trembling hands. A relationship has ended. The last message has already been sent, but the mind keeps searching for one more sentence that might change everything. Maybe if I explain myself more clearly. Maybe if I apologize again. Maybe if I become calmer, kinder, easier, or more patient. Maybe then this person will understand my heart. For months, this person has prayed for the relationship to return to what it once was. Every silence has felt like rejection. Every delayed response has produced fear. Every small sign has become a reason to hope again. Then, in the stillness of that parked car, something shifts. Nothing outside has changed. The other person has not returned. No apology has arrived. No dramatic sign has appeared. But for the first time, the question changes. Instead of asking, "How can I make this person come back?" the person asks, "Why have I been willing to leave myself in order to keep someone else?" That question becomes the beginning of healing. The pain remains, but it is no longer only about losing another person. It begins revealing the deeper wound of self-abandonment. It reveals every boundary that was ignored, every truth that was silenced, and every moment when fear was mistaken for love. This is how pain can lead you home. Not by making the loss meaningless, and not by asking you to pretend that you are grateful for being hurt, but by revealing the places where you have become disconnected from your own inner truth. You may have spent years asking other people to confirm that you were lovable. This is a deeply human longing. Every person wants to be seen, understood, and valued. But when your sense of worth depends entirely on another person's awareness, you hand them the key to your inner home. Their attention makes you feel safe. Their distance makes you feel lost. Their approval gives you confidence. Their criticism makes you question your entire identity. You begin measuring yourself through their moods, their choices, and their capacity to love. But another person can only respond from the level of awareness they have reached. Their inability to meet you does not define your value. Their behavior may reveal their fears, their conditioning, their wounds, or their emotional limitations. It may reveal that they are unwilling or unable to offer honesty, consistency, or care. It does not reveal the truth of your soul. You do not become less worthy because another person was unable to recognize your worth. A beautiful song does not lose its beauty because someone refuses to listen. A light does not become darkness because someone closes their eyes. Your worth existed before their approval, and it remains after their departure. Recognizing this does not mean you must stay where love is absent. Spiritual awareness is not an invitation to tolerate mistreatment. Compassion does not require self-erasure. Forgiveness does not require continued access to your life. Love sometimes expresses itself as patience, and sometimes it expresses itself as a boundary. Sometimes love embraces. Sometimes love says no. Sometimes love remains, and sometimes love releases. The source of life does not ask you to disappear in order to prove that you are a good person. A love that includes everyone except you is incomplete. You can care about another person and still acknowledge that their presence is no longer aligned with your well-being. You can understand someone's pain without volunteering to become the place where they repeatedly release it. You can wish another person healing while choosing not to accompany them through every consequence of their choices. The ego may resist this because it confuses letting go with losing. It says walking away means you failed. It says forgiveness means the other person won. It says that if you stop being angry, the pain will become meaningless. But anger does not protect what happened. It carries what happened into every new moment. You can honor the wound without worshiping it. You can remember without reliving. You can learn without becoming bitter. You can protect your heart without closing it. Letting go does not mean that what happened was acceptable. It means you are no longer willing to let what happened determine the quality of your inner life. This is acceptance. Acceptance is often misunderstood as approval or surrendering your right to feel hurt. But acceptance does not mean you wanted the loss, the betrayal, or the disappointment. Acceptance means you stop demanding that reality become different before you allow yourself to breathe again. The mind may say, I cannot be at peace because this should not have happened. And it may be true that it should not have happened. Someone should have been more honest. Someone should have treated you with greater care. A promise should have been kept. An opportunity should have been fair. You can recognize the injustice without allowing it to become the center of your identity. Acceptance says, this is what happened. I do not approve of it, but I will no longer spend my entire life arguing with a moment that has already passed. Imagine standing in a river and trying to stop its current with your hands. You push against the water because you want it to return you to yesterday. You want the conversation to happen differently. You want the person to make another choice. You want the closed door to open. The harder you push, the more exhausted you become. The river is not punishing you. Life is continuing to move. Your exhaustion comes from trying to force the present to return to the past. Acceptance is the moment you lower your hands. You stop fighting the current and begin asking where life is carrying you now. This does not make you passive. You still make choices. You still speak honestly. You still seek justice when justice is needed. You still protect yourself and take practical action. But you stop believing that your peace depends on controlling what has already happened or predicting every detail of what will happen next. Control often appears responsible, but beneath it is usually fear. You want to know how the problem will be solved, when the pain will end, who will remain, and what tomorrow will bring. You search for reassurance, signs, guarantees, and explanations. You organize every possibility in your mind because you believe enough thinking will keep you safe. But life does not offer complete certainty. People change. Bodies age. Plans shift. Seasons end. Opportunities arrive in forms you did not expect, and sometimes the door you were sure was meant for you remains closed. When the ego encounters this mystery, it imagines the worst outcome and reacts as though that imagined future is already real. You may lie awake suffering over conversations that have not happened, losses that have not occurred, and endings that exist only in thought. Awareness does not ask you to attack this part of yourself. It invites you to notice it gently. You can say, my mind is trying to protect me by predicting everything. That recognition creates space. You are no longer completely trapped inside the thought. You are the awareness observing it. A thought may be loud without being true. It may be familiar without being wise. It may have followed you for years without belonging to your deepest self. The ego often repeats what it learned during earlier pain. If you were abandoned, it may tell you that everyone will eventually leave. If you were criticized, it may warn you never to be visible. If love felt conditional, it may convince you that you must become useful, agreeable, or perfect so people will keep you close. This is how people-pleasing begins. You say yes while your heart is asking for rest. You remain silent to avoid conflict. You become whatever others appear to need, and then quietly resent them for not knowing who you truly are. But how can another person know you when fear has taught you to hide? The deeper pain is not only that others fail to understand you, it is that you have learned to abandon yourself before they have the opportunity. Returning home begins with listening to your own inner response again. Before agreeing, you pause. Before explaining, you breathe. Before seeking approval, you ask, what feels honest and peaceful within me? The ego may call this selfish, but selfishness ignores the humanity of others, while self-respect includes your own humanity in the circle of compassion. You are allowed to have needs. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to stop participating in what repeatedly damages your peace. You are allowed to choose a life that does not require you to betray yourself in order to belong. You may also be carrying pain because you are comparing your path with the visible lives of others. You see someone moving forward while you feel stuck. Their relationship appears secure. Their purpose seems clear. Their confidence looks effortless. Your mind takes one small glimpse of their life and uses it as evidence that you are falling behind. Comparison is one of the ego's most convincing illusions because it asks you to judge your inner journey by another person's outer appearance. You do not know what their soul is learning. You do not know what happens when the camera is turned off, when the room becomes quiet, or when they are left alone with their thoughts. Every life contains hidden seasons. You may be living through one now. Your old life may have become too small, while the new life has not fully appeared. The identity you once carried may be dissolving, but you do not yet know who you are becoming. This space can feel empty, yet emptiness is not always absence. Sometimes it is the clearing where something more honest can begin. The ego fears this space because it has no familiar identity there. It may prefer an unhealthy relationship to loneliness. It may prefer a familiar pattern to uncertain freedom. Familiar suffering can feel safer than an unknown future. This is why you may return to what hurt you. You check the message again. You revisit the memory. You imagine one more conversation that will finally give you closure. But closure is not always given by another person. Sometimes closure is the moment you stop asking the wound to explain itself. You decide that your peace will no longer depend on receiving the apology, the answer, or the understanding you deserved. You stop waiting for another person to release you. You release yourself. Forgiveness becomes important here, but forgiveness must be understood correctly. Forgiveness does not mean saying that what happened was acceptable. It does not remove accountability. It does not require reconciliation, renewed contact, or trust without evidence of change. Forgiveness is the decision that the wound will no longer determine the quality of your inner life. You do not forgive to free another person from the consequences of their choices. You forgive to free yourself from carrying them everywhere you go. Imagine holding a heavy stone because someone placed it in your hands many years ago. At first, the weight reminds you of what happened. You believe you must keep holding it so the injustice will not be forgotten. But over time, your hand grows tired. The stone changes the way you touch everything else. Even when the person is no longer present, you continue carrying the weight they gave you. Forgiveness is the moment you open your hand. The memory may remain, but the burden begins to leave. You can remember the lesson without carrying the poison. You can protect yourself without continuing the inner argument. You can acknowledge that someone failed you without allowing their failure to become your lifelong identity. This may also require forgiving yourself. There may be decisions you still judge. Perhaps you ignored what you knew. Perhaps you stayed too long, trusted too quickly, or remained silent when you wanted to speak. You may look back with the awareness you possess today and criticize the person you were then. But the person you were did not have the understanding you have now. You responded from your needs, fears, conditioning, and level of awareness at that time. You may have been trying to survive, to belong, or to keep love from leaving. Self-forgiveness does not mean avoiding responsibility. It means taking responsibility without turning it into lifelong self-punishment. You can say, I wish I had known then what I know now without concluding I was unworthy of love. You can acknowledge that you betrayed your own truth and still choose not to betray yourself again. The ego believes change requires criticism. It tells you that shame will make you wiser and punishment will make you pure. But shame often keeps the wound hidden. Love allows you to look at it honestly. When you meet yourself with compassion, you become capable of learning without becoming smaller. You can recognize where fear guided your decisions. You can make amends where necessary. You can set a new boundary and choose a new intention. Intention is not the forceful demand that life provide a particular outcome. It is the inner direction from which you choose to live. You may not control who stays, which opportunity appears, or how quickly healing unfolds, but you can choose the energy you bring into this moment. You can intend to stop abandoning yourself for approval. You can intend to speak with honesty and kindness. You can intend to release resentment, even if you must release it more than once. You can intend to meet uncertainty with trust instead of constant resistance. An intention rooted in love does not manipulate the future. It changes your relationship with the present. Take one slow breath now. Do not rush to the next thought. Feel the breath entering your body and leaving again. Notice where tension is being held. It may be in your chest, your throat, your stomach, or your shoulders. Do not demand that the tension disappear. Simply become present with it. You might quietly say, I am here. I will not abandon myself in this moment. Take another breath. Notice the story your mind has been repeating. It may say that you are behind, unwanted, forgotten, or unsafe. You do not need to fight the story. You can simply recognize it as a story. Then ask gently, what am I carrying today that no longer belongs in the life I am becoming? Do not force an immediate answer. Awareness often speaks quietly. It may appear as a simple realization that you are trying to control something that was never yours to control. It may reveal a conversation you need to stop rehearsing, a boundary you need to honor, or an expectation you are finally ready to release. This small act of presence is not insignificant. Each time you remain with yourself instead of escaping into fear, you are rebuilding trust with your own heart. You are becoming the safe place you once searched for in everyone else. This is what it means to return home. You may now be standing at a crossroads. The life you knew has ended, but the next chapter is not yet clear. You may feel tempted to rush toward any answer simply to escape the discomfort of not knowing. But there are moments when not knowing is sacred. Not knowing creates space for a deeper intelligence to guide you beyond the limits of your old thinking. Surrender becomes important here. Surrender does not mean giving up on life. It does not mean becoming inactive, careless, or resigned. Surrender means giving up the exhausting demand that life reveal its entire plan before you agree to participate. You still make choices. You still use discernment. You still take action when action becomes clear. But you release the belief that your mind must control every detail for you to be safe. There is an intelligence moving through life that the mind cannot fully explain. You see it in the rhythm of the seasons, the movement of the ocean, the healing of the body, and the quiet unfolding of every living thing. The same intelligence lives within you. You may call it God, Source, Spirit, Love, or the wisdom of life. The name matters less than the recognition that you are not separate from it. God is not merely a distant power watching your life from somewhere beyond you. The presence of God is the life breathing through you now. It is the quiet awareness beneath your thoughts. It is the love that remains when resentment has exhausted itself. It is the strength that helped you survive the nights you believed would break you. Trust does not mean believing that nothing difficult will happen. Trust means knowing that no difficulty can separate you from the presence within. You do not need to see the whole road. You only need enough light for the next honest step. Divine guidance often feels less like receiving a complete map and more like recognizing where your next truthful movement begins. The next step may be a conversation. It may be silence. It may be asking for help. It may be walking away. It may be resting without guilt. It may be choosing not to send the message. It may be accepting that the life you were begging to preserve was the life that required you to keep betraying yourself. Guidance does not always arrive as a dramatic sign. Sometimes it appears as the quiet disappearance of an old compulsion. You wake one morning and notice that you no longer need to check whether someone has replied. Sometimes guidance appears as clarity where fear once lived. A conversation that terrified you becomes necessary. A boundary that once felt cruel begins to feel loving. The deeper self usually speaks without panic. The ego speaks through urgency, fear, and the need to prove. The deeper self may ask you to do something difficult, but beneath the difficulty there is a sense of honesty. Listen for that honesty. Let love guide the next step. Love is not always soft agreement. Sometimes love says no. Sometimes love leaves. Sometimes love rests instead of proving. Sometimes love allows another person to face their own path without rescuing them from every consequence. You may have mistaken love for endless sacrifice. You may have believed that being spiritual meant remaining available to everyone, absorbing their pain, and asking for nothing in return. But love that requires you to disappear is not spiritual maturity. It is self-abandonment, wearing sacred language. True love includes you. Your peace matters. Your boundaries matter. Your truth matters. Letting go with love is different from leaving with hatred. Hatred keeps the energetic bond alive. It keeps the mind arguing, proving, defending, and waiting. Love says, I release you from the role I demanded you play. I release myself from waiting for you to become someone else. There may be grief in this release. You may grieve the person, the opportunity, or the future you imagined. You may grieve the version of yourself who believed things would be different. Allow that grief to move through you. Grief does not mean you are failing to heal. It means your heart is acknowledging that something mattered. You do not need to rush. There is no spiritual prize for healing quickly. Some days you may feel free, and on another day, an old memory may return. This does not mean you have lost your progress. Healing moves like a river. It does not travel in a perfectly straight line. It bends, slows, meets obstacles, and continues. Each time pain returns, you are given another opportunity to meet it from a deeper place. You can breathe and say, this is a memory moving through me. It is not a command. It is not my identity. It is not the whole truth of this moment. Slowly, the body begins to learn that the danger has passed. The heart begins to trust your presence. The past becomes a teacher rather than a prison. Gratitude may eventually arise, but it should not be forced. You do not have to be grateful for the harm. You may become grateful for the awareness that emerged. You may recognize that the painful ending revealed where you had stopped listening to yourself. You may see that uncertainty taught you how little control was ever necessary for peace. You may understand that a closed door prevented you from continuing down a path that was taking you farther away from your own soul. Gratitude does not rewrite the past. It changes the energy with which you carry it. You begin to see that life was not only taking something from you, it may also have been returning something to you. Your voice, your boundaries, your intuition, your compassion, your relationship with God, the memory of who you were before fear became your guide. The home you were searching for was never hidden in another person's approval or in a perfect future. It was hidden beneath everything you were finally ready to release. Your pain is not the deepest truth about you. It is an experience passing through your life, not the home of your spirit. Beneath the fear, beneath the grief, and beneath every story the ego has created, there is a quiet presence within you that has never been broken. You do not have to force yourself to feel peaceful every moment. You do not have to deny the days when sadness returns or uncertainty feels heavy. Living this truth means remembering again and again that you can experience pain without becoming pain. You can feel fear without allowing fear to direct your life. You can miss someone without abandoning yourself to bring them back. Each day offers small opportunities to return home. Before reaching for your phone in the morning, allow yourself a few quiet moments. Feel the breath moving through your body. Notice the space around your thoughts. You do not need to solve your entire life before the day begins. Simply remember that you are here. Life is still moving within you. The presence that carried you through yesterday is present now. You may practice forgiveness whenever the past asks to become your present. You may need to release the same resentment more than once. When an old memory returns, meet yourself gently. Say, I am willing to loosen my hold on this pain. I am willing to choose peace again. Trust can be practiced in the same way. You may not know how your life will unfold. You may still be waiting for clarity, but trust does not require you to see the entire road. It asks you to take the next step without betraying your inner peace. You will still make mistakes. You may return to old habits. You may seek approval again or hold tightly to something that is already leaving. When you notice this, do not use awareness as another reason to criticize yourself. Awareness is the light that helps you see the path. It is not a weapon used to punish you for wandering. You can adjust without shame. You can begin again without believing that you have failed. One day, you may look back at this painful season with a gentler understanding. You may see that it removed the patterns, beliefs, and relationships that required you to live far from yourself. You may recognize that what felt like abandonment was also an invitation to stop abandoning your own soul. God was not waiting for you at the end of the pain. The presence of God was with you inside it. It was present in every breath you thought you could not take, in every night you survived, and in every quiet moment when something within you whispered that your life still held meaning. You were never being led toward a distant home. You were being guided back to the love, peace, and wholeness that had always lived within you. So move gently now. Let the past become a teacher rather than a prison. Let uncertainty become a space where trust can grow. Let forgiveness open your hand. Let love include you. And when the world becomes loud, return to the silence beneath the noise. If these words have met you during an important season, you may share in the comments what you are being asked to release, forgive, or remember. And you may remain with this community for more quiet reflections on peace, healing, intention, and living in harmony with the source. Then return once more to your breath. Return to the awareness behind your thoughts. Return to the love that no rejection could remove. There you will remember what your pain could never take away. You are still whole. You are still connected. You are still held by the same loving source that breathes through every tree, every river, every star, and every living heart. God has not forgotten you. Life has not abandoned you. And beneath everything you are releasing, you are already home.